Yeah. The immigrants are welcome here, no hate. The immigrants are welcome here, no hate. This is what democracy looks like.
I need this administration to know that many people in this country are not happy, and we want change. We need change because this is not America. This is not the America I know. I want my America back.
Trump has to be stopped.
What's good, people? Dr. John Podcast is back again. Donald Trump, already the only president impeached twice, now faces yet another potential removal effort as a new constitutional crisis looms. Even some of his most loyal supporters are questioning whether enough is finally enough, as the I word resurfaced with a vengeance, forcing Trump to confront a nightmare scenario he thought he had left behind. The second impeachment came just over a year later, following the catastrophic events of January 6, 2021, when a mob of Trump supporters stormed the United States Capitol in a violent attempt to overturn the certification of Joe Biden's electoral victory. The House moved swiftly to impeach Trump for incitement of insurrection, and this time something remarkable happened. 10 Republicans broke ranks with their party and voted alongside Democrats to hold Trump accountable for his role in the riot. It was the most bipartisan impeachment vote in American history, sending a clear message that Trump's actions had crossed a line that...
And that's what No Kings is all about, because he can't do all the things that he's been doing without the collusion of Congress and the goons in his administration.
We have to do everything to get Trump out.
I think it's important for everybody to make a stand against authoritarianism and fascism and greed, and all Trump is doing is making himself wealthy while taking away from regular Americans.
This reactionary nightmare and these invasions of American cities will not stand.
When democracy itself seems to be at risk, it was Minnesota who said, "Not on our watch."
One more time. What are we?
Our freedom looks like. This is what our people look like. This is what democracy looks like.
Show me what democracy looks like.
even members of his own party could not ignore. Yet once again, the Senate fell short of the two-thirds majority required for conviction, with only 57 senators voting to remove Trump, leaving him acquitted but politically damaged and increasingly isolated. Now, as the political climate has grown increasingly volatile, calls for Trump's removal have erupted once more, with an intensity that dwarfs even the previous impeachment efforts. Activists and politicians across the spectrum are demanding action, citing Trump's escalating confrontations with Iran, his controversial use of presidential pardons to shield allies and punish enemies, his open defiance of congressional subpoenas, and what many view as a systematic obstruction of justice that threatens the very foundations of American democracy. Every new controversy, every late-night tweet threatening military action, every executive order that stretches the bounds of presidential authority adds fuel to the impeachment fire and pushes the nation closer to yet another constitutional showdown. The drumbeat of impeachment has become so persistent that it now hangs over Trump's.
They gathered to tell their president that they do not want him to be a king.
When do we want it? Now!
Many of the protests, as here in Washington, D.C., look more like street parties, However, the anger at Donald Trump was palpable.
We've been seeing the same thing from the first administration of Trump. He is dismantling every safeguard that we've had for our country and our democracy, and we need to do something.
If you were to do a little research on the history of Germany in the 1930s, you would see so many parallels that would scare the hell out of you.
Protests come amid a government shutdown that has closed federal programs and services and which is testing the balance of power as the president confronts Congress and the courts.
No, President Trump, we don't want you or any other king to rule us. Thank you very much. But we will maintain our democratic form of society.
The aerial shot here of the No Kings protest in Chicago conveys the scale of the turnout. This is the third mass mobilization since Trump's return to the White House.
Presidency like a dark cloud, a constant reminder that his grip on power remains tenuous and that his political enemies are always watching, always waiting for the moment to strike. The recurring impeachment talk reflects something deeper than mere partisan animosity. It represents a fundamental breakdown in the norms and traditions that have historically governed American presidential behavior. Trump's willingness to push boundaries, to test the limits of executive power, and to treat the presidency as a tool for personal enrichment and vengeance has created a situation where the constitutional mechanism of impeachment has become almost normalized, a regular part of political discourse rather than the extraordinary last resort it was always meant to be. This normalization of impeachment talk.
Organizers say that more than 2,600 rallies were planned. For the 18th of October, they said the message was, "We gather in cities nationwide to reclaim democracy, reject fascism, and remind Trump that power belongs to the people." People turned out in Florida's West Palm Beach holding anti-Trump banners near his Mar-a-Lago residence, which is where he is spending the weekend. Trump supporters gathered nearby to play the speech Trump gave when he won the election.
Is itself a dangerous development, suggesting that the American political system is struggling to cope with a president who refuses to accept the traditional constraints on presidential power and who seems determined to bend the rules of governance to his will regardless of the consequences. Perhaps the most striking aspect of the current impeachment situation is how it has evolved from previous attempts. Unlike 2019 and 2021, when Trump could count on near-unanimous Republican support, there is now genuine dissent within his own party, with prominent Republicans openly criticizing Trump's behavior and discussing the possibility of supporting removal efforts. This fracturing of the Republican coalition represents a significant shift in the political calculus surrounding impeachment, making the prospect of actual removal seem more plausible than ever before. When even Fox News commentators and conservative thought leaders begin questioning whether Trump has finally gone too far, it signals a fundamental change in the political landscape that could have profound implications for any future impeachment proceedings. The mechanics of impeachment remain dauntingly difficult to navigate, requiring a majority vote in the House of Representatives to approve articles of impeachment and then a supermajority of 2/3 in the Senate to convict and remove the president from office. With Republicans currently controlling both chambers of Congress, any successful impeachment effort would require substantial Republican defections in both the House and the Senate, a political feat that remains extraordinarily difficult despite the growing dissatisfaction with Trump's leadership. However, the mathematics of impeachment are not static and could shift dramatically if the political circumstances change, if Trump's behavior becomes even more egregious, or if the upcoming midterm elections reshape the balance of power in Congress in favor of those seeking his removal. The threat of impeachment serves multiple political purposes beyond the actual possibility of removal. It functions as a constant check on Trump's behavior, a warning that his actions have consequences and that there are limits to what the political system will tolerate. Every time impeachment talk surfaces, it forces Republican politicians to take difficult positions, to choose between loyalty to Trump and their own political survival. This pressure can be politically damaging, particularly for moderate Republicans in competitive districts who must balance their base's support for Trump against the growing anti-Trump sentiment among independent and swing voters. The constant impeachment chatter also serves to keep Trump's scandals in the public eye, preventing the normalization mobilization of his most controversial actions and ensuring that voters remain aware of the allegations against him. The comparative rarity of presidential impeachment in American history makes Trump's situation all the more remarkable. Only 3 presidents have ever been impeached: Andrew Johnson, Bill Clinton, and Donald Trump. And Trump stands alone as the only president to have been impeached twice. The fact that he now faces the possibility of a third impeachment proceeding speaks volumes about the unique challenges his presidency has posed to the American political system. Unlike previous impeachment efforts, which were largely partisan affairs driven by opposition parties, Trump's impeachments have generated genuine bipartisan concern, with substantial numbers of Republican voters and some Republican elected officials expressing doubts about his fitness for office. The constitutional alternatives to impeachment have also entered the public discourse, particularly the 25th Amendment mechanism that would allow the vice president and a majority of the cabinet to declare the president unfit to serve. This path to removal does not require congressional approval in the same way impeachment does, making it potentially more feasible if Vice President J.D. Vance and the cabinet were ever willing to take the extraordinary step of invoking it. The very fact that such discussions are happening at all represents an unprecedented situation, a sign that Trump's condition and conduct have raised serious questions about his ability to continue serving as president. The international dimension of the impeachment discussion adds another layer of complexity to the situation. America's allies and adversaries alike are watching the unfolding drama with intense interest, wondering whether the United States can maintain stable governance in the face of such profound political turmoil. Trump's confrontational foreign policy, his threats to withdraw from international agreements, and his sometimes erratic approach to diplomacy have unsettled traditional allies while giving hope to America's rivals. The uncertainty created by the constant impeachment speculation undermines American credibility abroad and complicates efforts to present a united front on critical global issues. The domestic consequences of recurring impeachment talk are equally significant, fueling political polarization and eroding public confidence in American institutions. The constant drumbeat of scandal and potential removal creates a toxic political environment where governance becomes increasingly difficult, where normal legislative business takes a backseat to crisis management, and where the American people grow increasingly cynical about their political system. This erosion of institutional trust is perhaps the most dangerous long-term consequence of the impeachment era, as a democracy cannot function effectively when its citizens lose faith in the integrity of their leaders and the fairness of their political processes. The financial markets have also taken notice of the escalating impeachment threat, with investors growing increasingly nervous about the potential for political instability to disrupt economic growth. The uncertainty surrounding Trump's political future creates volatility in stock prices and complicates business planning as companies struggle to anticipate how the political landscape might shift in the coming months. Every new development in the impeachment saga sends ripples through financial markets, demonstrating how deeply interconnected American politics and economics have become. The legal implications of the impeachment discussion extend beyond the immediate political calculus, raising fundamental questions about the scope of presidential power and the accountability of the chief executive to the law. Trump's aggressive assertions of executive privilege, his defiance of congressional subpoenas, and his broad claims of presidential immunity have tested the constitutional separation of powers in ways that previous presidents never attempted. If impeachment proceedings do move forward, they will inevitably address these deeper legal questions, potentially establishing precedents that will shape presidential power for generations to come. The media landscape has been transformed by the recurring impeachment drama, with cable news networks devoting countless hours of coverage to the latest developments and political commentators offering round-the-clock analysis of the unfolding situation. This media attention amplifies the political impact of impeachment talk, keeping it front and center in the public consciousness and making it difficult for Trump or his supporters to simply ignore the growing calls for his removal. The constant media coverage also creates a self-reinforcing cycle where impeachment talk generates more attention, which in turn generates more political pressure, making the prospect of actual impeachment feel increasingly inevitable. Perhaps most concerning is the impact that recurring impeachment threats have on the presidency itself. The office of the president has historically commanded a degree of respect and deference that transcends partisan politics. But Trump's constant battles with Congress and the ongoing impeachment talk have contributed to a degradation of presidential authority that may persist long after he leaves office. Future presidents, regardless of their party affiliation, will inherit a political environment where impeachment has become a normalized political tool rather than an extraordinary constitutional remedy, making it more difficult for any president to govern effectively without facing constant threats of removal. The public reaction to the escalating impeachment talk reflects a nation deeply divided over Trump's fitness for office. Polls show that a significant portion of the American public supports impeachment, particularly among Democrats and independents, but Trump retains substantial support among his core Republican base. This polarization makes any impeachment effort inherently divisive, risking further entrenching the political divisions that have come to characterize contemporary American politics. The possibility that a third impeachment might actually succeed raises the specter of widespread political unrest, as Trump's most ardent supporters would likely view any removal effort as an illegitimate coup against their chosen leader. The historical parallels between Trump's situation and previous presidential crises offer some perspective on the current predicament. Like Andrew Johnson, who faced impeachment after the Civil War, Trump has clashed repeatedly with Congress over fundamental questions of executive authority. Like Richard Nixon, who resigned rather than face almost certain impeachment, Trump has been accused of abusing presidential power for political ends. Yet Trump's situation is unique in its persistence, with each crisis seemingly leading to new calls for removal rather than resolving the underlying tensions between the president and Congress. The international comparison is also instructive, with other democracies watching America's impeachment saga with a mixture of fascination and concern. The United States has long presented itself as a model of democratic governance and constitutional stability, but the repeated impeachment threats against Trump suggest a political system in distress, one that is struggling to hold its executive branch accountable while maintaining the stability necessary for effective governance. This perception of American dysfunction has consequences for America's global standing, potentially weakening its ability to advocate for democratic values abroad. Looking ahead, the trajectory of the impeachment discussion depends on a series of unpredictable factors. If Trump escalates military action against Iran or other adversaries, if he commits some new abuse of power that shocks the national conscience, or if he faces mounting legal troubles that raise additional questions about his fitness for office, then the already considerable pressure for impeachment could intensify dramatically. Conversely, if Trump moderates his behavior and works more cooperatively with Congress, the impeachment threat might recede, at least temporarily. The dynamic nature of this situation ensures that the impeachment story will continue to evolve, with each new development potentially reshaping the political landscape in profound ways. The 2026 midterm elections loom as a crucial turning point in the impeachment saga. If Democrats can gain control of either chamber of Congress, the arithmetic of impeachment changes significantly, making it more likely that articles of impeachment could be approved and perhaps even that conviction in the Senate could become a realistic possibility. The outcome of these elections will therefore play a decisive role in determining whether the impeachment threat remains theoretical or becomes an imminent reality that Trump must confront directly. The personal toll of the recurring impeachment threats on Trump himself should not be underestimated. The constant pressure, the ongoing investigations, and the unending speculation about his removal must weigh heavily on a man who craves validation and fears defeat above all else. Trump's response to the impeachment pressure has been characteristically combative, lashing out at his accusers and doubling down on the behavior that prompted the calls for his removal in the first place. This defensive posture, while politically useful for rallying his base, may ultimately be self-defeating, as it prevents him from taking the steps necessary to defuse the impeachment threat and restore confidence in his leadership. The role of Trump's legal team in managing the impeachment threat has also been crucial, with his lawyers working frantically to build defenses against potential charges while simultaneously trying to discredit the impeachment process itself. These legal efforts, while sophisticated and well-funded, face significant challenges given the breadth of potential charges against Trump and the considerable evidence that has already been gathered in previous investigations. The legal battles surrounding impeachment could drag on for months or even years, further consuming the political system's attention and energy. Perhaps the most important lesson from the recurring impeachment saga is the resilience of American democratic institutions in the face of unprecedented challenges. Despite Trump's repeated efforts to push against constitutional boundaries and undermine the mechanisms of democratic accountability, the system has largely held, with courts enforcing the rule of law and Congress maintaining at least some oversight over executive actions. This institutional resilience provides some hope that even if Trump faces a third impeachment, the American political system can weather the storm and emerge with its fundamental values intact. The prospect of a third impeachment trial is particularly daunting given the heightened political tensions and the possibility of civil unrest. With the nation still recovering from the trauma of the January 6th insurrection and facing numerous other crises, the additional stress of an impeachment trial could push the political system to its breaking point. The potential for violence or other forms of disruption must be taken seriously, with security preparations already underway at the Capitol and other potential flashpoints. The role of the media in the impeachment saga has been a subject of intense debate, with critics charging that excessive coverage of impeachment threats has contributed to the political dysfunction, while defenders argue that the press has a responsibility to hold power accountable. Whatever one's view of the media's performance, there is no question that the impeachment drumbeat has been amplified by journalistic attention, making it harder for Trump to escape the constant questioning about his fitness for office. The generational implications of the impeachment era are also worth considering. Young Americans who came of age during Trump's presidency have witnessed a series of unprecedented political events, from multiple impeachments to a violent insurrection, that have reshaped their understanding of American democracy. This generation's political attitudes, shaped by the chaos and dysfunction of the Trump years, will likely influence American politics for decades to come, potentially pushing the nation toward more dramatic political reforms in the future. The state-level implications of the impeachment threat should not be overlooked either, with governors and state legislatures watching the national drama unfold with keen interest. The ability of states to maintain stable governance while the federal government lurches from crisis to crisis has been tested repeatedly, with state officials often forced to fill the leadership void left by a distracted and weakened federal government. This devolution of power to the states represents a significant shift in the American federal system, one that could have lasting consequences for the balance of power between state and federal authorities. The role of political allies in Trump's impeachment battles has been crucial, with figures like House Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell playing key roles in managing the fallout from each impeachment threat. Their decisions about whether to support or oppose impeachment efforts will profoundly influence the outcome of any future proceedings, making their political calculations a matter of intense speculation and analysis. The business community's response to the impeachment threat has also been noteworthy, with corporate leaders expressing private concern about the potential economic disruption, while generally remaining publicly neutral to avoid alienating customers or employees. This corporate caution reflects the broader uncertainty surrounding the impeachment situation, as business leaders struggle to plan for multiple possible outcomes with vastly different implications for the economy. The environmental consequences of the political turmoil surrounding impeachment should not be forgotten either, with environmental regulations and climate policy often taking a backseat to the more immediate crisis management consuming Washington's attention. The opportunity cost of the impeachment battles in terms of lost legislative time and attention is substantial, with important policy issues receiving inadequate attention as the political class focuses on the drama of potential removal. The cultural dimension of the impeachment saga has been equally significant, with Trump's battles with Congress becoming a defining feature of American cultural life. Popular culture has absorbed and reflected the impeachment drama, with television shows, movies, and music frequently referencing the ongoing political crisis. This cultural embedding of impeachment talk ensures that even those Americans who try to avoid politics cannot escape the constant drumbeat of scandal and potential removal. The international perception of America's impeachment troubles has been decidedly negative, with foreign governments expressing varying degrees of concern and schadenfreude as the United States struggles with its political dysfunction. America's global reputation, already damaged by Trump's confrontational foreign policy and his attacks on traditional alliances, has suffered further from the perception that the American political system cannot effectively govern itself or hold its leaders accountable. This reputational damage could have long-lasting consequences for American influence and power in the international system. The comparative perspective is also useful, with other nations that have experienced repeated impeachment efforts offering lessons for the American situation. Countries like Brazil and South Korea, which have seen their presidents face impeachment and removal, demonstrate both the possibilities and the perils of using constitutional mechanisms to remove unpopular leaders. Their experiences suggest that while impeachment can serve as a vital accountability mechanism, it also carries significant risks of political instability and institutional damage. The technological dimension of the impeachment saga has been increasingly important, with social media platforms playing a central role in amplifying impeachment calls and mobilizing political support. The ability of activists to organize and coordinate through digital platforms has made impeachment efforts more effective and more persistent than in previous eras, when such movements required more traditional forms of political organization. The educational implications of the impeachment era are also significant, with schools and universities facing the challenge of teaching a new generation of students about political accountability and constitutional governance in an era when these concepts have become deeply contested. The Trump presidency and its associated impeachment battles have provided rich material for political education, but they have also complicated efforts to teach students about the stability and effectiveness of American democratic institutions. The psychological dimension of the impeachment saga has been explored by mental health professionals, who note the significant stress and anxiety caused by the constant political turmoil. The uncertainty surrounding Trump's political future, combined with the other crises facing the nation, has taken a toll on the mental health of many Americans, particularly those who are most politically engaged. The spiritual dimension of the impeachment debate should not be overlooked either, with religious leaders and faith communities offering varying perspectives on the moral and ethical questions raised by Trump's actions and the calls for his removal. These religious voices have added another layer of complexity to the impeachment discourse, framing the political crisis in terms of deeper questions about justice, accountability, and the proper role of political authority. The historical significance of the recurring impeachment threat will be debated by future historians who will analyze the Trump era as a pivotal moment in American political development. The frequency with which impeachment has been discussed and the seriousness with which it has been considered suggests a fundamental shift in the relationship between the executive and legislative branches, one that future presidents will have to navigate carefully. The cultural legacy of the impeachment battles will likely endure long after Trump leaves office, with the impeachment era becoming a defining feature of American political memory. The iconic images, the dramatic hearings, and the passionate debates will be remembered as a watershed moment in American history, a time when the nation confronted fundamental questions about the nature of presidential power and the limits of political accountability. The policy implications of the impeachment saga extend to virtually every area of American governance, with the political uncertainty created by the constant impeachment talk hampering efforts to address critical national challenges. From infrastructure investment to healthcare reform to climate policy, the attention and energy devoted to impeachment battles has detracted from more productive legislative work. The ethical dimensions of the impeachment debate have been extensively discussed, with philosophers and political theorists weighing in on the moral obligations of political leaders and the responsibilities of citizens in a democratic society. These ethical discussions have enriched the impeachment discourse, elevating it beyond mere partisan squabbling to a genuine conversation about the nature of democratic governance. The electoral implications of the impeachment saga will be significant, with the 2026 and 2028 elections likely to be shaped by voters' reactions to the impeachment battles and their assessment of Trump's fitness for office. The potential for impeachment to mobilize voters on both sides of the partisan divide is substantial, ensuring that the impeachment story will remain relevant to electoral politics for years to come. The administrative burden of the impeachment process has been substantial, with congressional staff and government officials devoting enormous resources to managing the various impeachment efforts. This administrative cost, while necessary for the functioning of constitutional governance, represents a significant opportunity cost in terms of other government activities that might have been undertaken. The procedural complexities of the impeachment process have been tested and refined by the Trump impeachments, with each successive effort generating new precedents and procedures that will shape future impeachment proceedings. The institutional learning that has occurred through these repeated impeachment battles will make future efforts more efficient and more predictable. The concluding reality remains that while impeachment threats have become a recurring feature of Trump's presidency, and while the political pressure for his removal continues to mount, actual removal remains an uncertain prospect that depends on a complex interplay of political factors, legal considerations, and public opinion. The ongoing impeachment drama reflects a political system struggling to contain an unconventional president, and the final resolution of this struggle remains far from certain. The American people, and indeed the world, will continue to watch with bated breath as this unprecedented political drama unfolds, uncertain of its ultimate outcome, but certain of its profound historical significance. The future trajectory of the impeachment saga remains deeply uncertain, with numerous possible outcomes ranging from Trump's eventual removal to his successful completion of his term and everything in between. The actions of key political actors, the evolution of public opinion, and the emergence of new scandals or crises will all shape the eventual resolution of the impeachment drama. What seems clear is that the impeachment threat will not simply disappear, that it will continue to cast its shadow over Trump's presidency and American politics more broadly for the foreseeable future. The fundamental lesson of the recurring impeachment saga may be that American democracy, for all its flaws and challenges, possesses remarkable resilience in the face of crisis. Despite the constant turmoil, the repeated constitutional confrontations, and the bitter partisan divisions, the basic institutions of American governance have continued to function. Elections have been held, power has been transferred, and the rule of law has largely been maintained. This institutional resilience provides some grounds for optimism that even the most challenging impeachment scenario can be navigated without catastrophic damage to American democracy.